Hello and welcome to this Project in a Box introduction. We're going to spend about half an hour looking through some slides and then looking through the application itself to see how Project in a Box helps customers deliver their projects better. So Project in a Box provides a wide range of capabilities. Let's have a look through each of those in turn briefly. Consistency is around establishing standardized approaches to the way you deliver your project. Standardized process, templates, reporting, guidance materials, roles, all that sort of set of whatever makes up the project. You can have a number of those different defined sets that we call methods available on your server, so you can create projects of different types consistently. You can personalize those, you can use our standards off the shelf. It's about establishing consistent approaches to the way that you deliver projects in your organization. Absolutely essential foundations for building a more mature and structured organization. Collaboration is about taking those frameworks and working with the content that's there. So you'll have a set of templates when you start the project, and users will be able to view those. They'll be able to update them if they've got enough permissions. They'll be able to add new content as they go through, and they'll always be shown the things that are relevant to the process they are in. You don't usually get to see the whole set of documentation for the project. You just get to see things that are relevant to your permissions and the place you are in the project. Of course, we also have discussions, threads type collaboration, which is a bit more social media type, where lots of people can throw ideas into a pot rather than the more structured documentation. Controls are about controlling the project. We have core controls, which would be plans, risks and issues. Issues, of course, includes change management, and plans, of course, includes tasks and resources and costing off the back of that as well. In these areas where you update the file in the project, say the plan, every time you update that, the data is harvested into a central database. So we've got a central set of all the latest task, risks, issues and associated data from those, and they're available for analysis, for driving notifications, for feeding into reports, of course, for producing KPIs, etc. And that's also trended as well as latest spot information. And then you can bring other things in, such as finances, benefits, health and safety, all the other sorts of data which are relevant to your organisation or different in your organisation to other organisations. And again, harvested from your files when you update them and stored in the system for reporting and some sorts of analysis. And of course, one of the key things with all that data is we're going to feed reports. Reporting templates are provided, so you can select your project or your collection of projects, the template you want to apply to it, and it'll produce the report for you. It'll be styled and branded and have all the relevant data in from that project or collection of projects. And you can have as many of these different report templates as you want. We provide over 60 to start off with. You can personalize those, or you can of course add your own completely bespoke ones. Communication is also about working with emails, so the system can email things to you. You can also store emails in the system as important documentation evidence for the project. And of course, we also provide interactive dashboards, so you can see your data and performance indicators directly on the project as you're progressing. Confidence is about governance and assurance, and it's about permissions models, who can see what. It's about audit trails, all the data that the system is recording about users' interactions with the system. So there's all that sort of thing there. Very useful for QA, for post-project reviews, for audits, etc. It's just happening behind the scenes, and it does it all for you. Project in a Box, the system, is available over the cloud. If you want it, we can host it for you, and you connect over the internet either using a browser interface or a Windows interface to access your information and update it, etc. Or you can host it yourself on premises, and you can again use the same two interfaces, browser or Windows application. The fact that it's the same application whether you host it or we host it for you means that you've got flexibility about moving. You could start off SaaS and take it on-premise, or start off on-premise and take it to SaaS on the cloud. And pricing, we can come back and talk about that sort of stuff at any time. We publish our prices, they're all available on our website for you to see, and it's really quite modestly priced. So we have options for small teams, 20 users, £1,000, and that allows you to have the full functionality and just get going. If we host it for you, it's more expensive, of course, and if you want bigger numbers of users. Again, of course, it's more expensive, but there's something here that everyone can start with if they want to. Okay, so let's go and have a look at the system operating then. Here I am in my browser. I'm logged in to the system, and therefore I can come and select a project, and everybody gets a different view here. You'll see things that are relevant for you. In my case, I'm an administrator, so I'm seeing lots of different portfolios of projects, different collections of projects, and I'm seeing lots of projects within those. Many users will be just working on one or two projects, in which case they'll probably just have the all projects list, and then they'll just see their one or two projects within that. Me, I've got many projects here, hence it's useful to be able to jump to groups of them, and that's also the case for when we come to analysis as well. We can analyze the content based on these groups of projects, and I can see some data straight away from my project, some indicators of how it's going. So I'm going to choose my project here, and you'll see it opens using a navigation diagram. So this is one of the things that makes Project in a Box unique. Users navigate from these pictures. These are set up as part of the method, so all projects of this type will have the same navigation diagram, and it's a JPEG, so you can make it whatever you want it to be, and then you lay on it clicks that say, well, I want to do these particular things. So we've got some standardized ones, of course, available for you to pick up and use straight away, which link you to processes and discussions and point the users to the particular things we think they might want to see, like latest task, risks and issues, their resource profile, reports, and of course, as I said, live dashboard. So projected onto this project is latest information about statuses, percentage completes, risk level of the project, who the key role holders are, some latest commentary about where we are in the project, etc. And you can choose which of these things you want. Any of your custom data or our standard data can be projected onto your project like this. We've got indicators that show us how we're progressing through the processes as well. So I can see I'm on manage stage, so I can click into there, and it will show me the documentation for that delivery part of the project. So I'm just seeing here the documents that are relevant, not all the documents, just the ones that are relevant for this particular point in the process. And I can come into here, and we've got our PID file here, which is a Word file, and we preview most of the files we preview the files for you that we can, and that's the most common ones. It's Word, Excel, PDFs, images, emails, things of that type, our in-house file types, of course. And so you can preview that straight away, and that means if you're on your phone or your tablet and you might not have Word running there, you don't have to download that file to read it. You can preview it straight away. And of course, we can adjust these panes to enable that to work as well as we want it to on a small device. And there might be lots of different sorts of files. So we've got some images here and some spreadsheets. And like I said, it'll preview all of those things, so I can really quickly get a feel for where we are in the project. When we've got more advanced files like plans, risks and issues, here's my plan, risk and issue file. I can see a preview of those. Of course, I might not be able to make changes to these unless I have sufficient permissions. So permissions model is controlling all this. If I didn't have permissions for the plan and project controls area, I wouldn't be able to see it at all. So I can see it, and therefore I may well be able to also edit that content. And of course, sometimes we provide empty placeholders because we want to add content as we go through. And that's really important actually in terms of structuring the documentation in the project. You want to be able to start with templates, but then for users to be able to see where they're supposed to put the things they're supposed to collect as they progress through the project. Adding things is very straightforward. I can browse to something, or I can even just drag and drop content in. So I've got some files here. I could just drag a file onto there, and we'll see it appear within our project library. And I've got an email there as well, an image, and they're just included. And straight away I can then see those files, and we'll be able to see. So we have this simple view, which is the one users most commonly see, and it's about previewing or working on the file. There's a more advanced view, which shows you audit trail for the files and more sophisticated options set for them, but normally we're into just essentially reading and working on content. So getting content in is really easy, and seeing and viewing content is really easy as well. Let's just have a look back through the process, and you'll see how easy it is for me to move in and out of this navigation. It just slides in and out from the side here. So if I want to come back to my start process, I need to update my, and we don't stop you automatically going anywhere you want to in the process, actually, because you can read ahead and preview what you might need to be doing, or go back and review things that have happened in the past. You're not forced to just work on the current process. You can gate your project, actually, if you want to do that, to restrict it, but as standard our method don't gauge you like that, because often people want to read ahead or review backwards, and it's a bit over constraining often on users to restrict them to just the current process. So back here, perhaps I want to update my project team appointments. I can preview my file there, and in this particular case I can work on it live in the browser, so I can come and find the project manager role and change this around like that, and make other changes. And these files here allow you to add images and text and tables and all that sort of thing. I can check that in, and that will have changed the content in here, and we can see that there. Changes around is showing up now. And of course that's written into the audit trail. The fact that I've changed this file today is now stored here. Now I can go back and look at earlier versions of it if I want to, and in fact I can go back and send earlier versions of it out to other people, but I can't change them. I only ever change the current version, and that keeps the audit trail really strong within the document system. So this is really useful. It's focusing in us on the things that we need in the project. I haven't got a large library of documentation, and then I've got to remember which thing to do where. When I come to concept, it shows me the things I need to deal with to establish whether we've got a valid project concept. What information do I need to collect? I've got an idea form in this case, and that's there, and I'm going to go through and produce a project mandate and support that with some documentation, etc. That's what I need to do at that point in the project. I don't need to worry about end project reports or PIDs or project charters or whatever your project documentation is. I'm just dealing with the things that are relevant at that point. So I can jump around those, as we've talked about discussions as well. I can have a more open sort of thread of collaboration around a particular topic. Project managers can set those up, and then any user can come into here and add some thoughts on that particular topic, and that will appear as part of the thread. Users can set up that they want to be receiving email alerts, so much like you get an email alert when there's a Facebook chat that you've been involved in is updated, you can get the same sort of thing here. So this about keeping people engaged in different ways with the project content. So this is very much about delivery, discussions and documentation. In fact, as I say, we can have anything we want to on these diagrams. We've thought very carefully in our many years of experience of working with customers to create things that work for them, has brought us to this sort of layout where we're focusing people on the key things on a simple diagram, because most users don't push too far into a system. So what you put in front of them is what they do. Working on documentation and discussions, can read the latest information, commentary and status about the project. They can come over here and live review their plans, risks, issues and resources. So I want to see what tasks I'm working on the project. Now this is going to the database, and it's looking for all tasks in this project, and then it's only showing me the ones that I am working on. Now that's a saved set of decisions that we've made and built into that click, and you can make the same ones yourself. You can change that to be whatever you want to. So I'm not going to see every task in the project. There might be 1,000 tasks in this project. I'm working on 13 of them. They're the ones I need to focus on, so they're the ones it shows me. And I can see, just like a simple sort of plan view, which tasks are complete, which ones are not complete, where we are today, and I can see broadly we're doing reasonably well, although there's one there that should be complete and isn't. And of course, if I want further information, I can click in and see all the details about those tasks and who's working on them, etc. That's not for updating. The data is from the plan. I'd go back and update that in the plan if I had permissions to, but this allows me to come in and see that information straight away. And that will be the same if I wanted to see the risks that I was involved in on this project. I can see the risks here. These are the risks that I'm involved in. Same for issues. If I wanted to see the resources for me on this project, this is the amount of time I'm supposed to be spending on this project. So 76 hours this month, and if I wanted to change that down to weeks, I could. If I wanted to go and see what the particular tasks were, I could do that as well. So all these views here are set up predominantly for the individual to focus them in on their things. But like I say, that's a design choice. Actually, if I have enough permissions, so if I come back to here, and this time I'm actually the project manager on this project, I can change that up and see the entire project set of tasks, so all the tasks, not just the ones that I'm working on. And in fact, I can jump further ahead and go to portfolio, and I can see all the tasks in the portfolio. This is now running across all the collections, all the different projects in this particular set of projects. And immediately we've got too many to see now on our screen. So if I want to, I can use what we call a view, which is a set of rules about what I'm going to see. So I'm going to come to my view list, and I'm going to change that so I'm only interested in overdue tasks, like that. So now I've only got overdue tasks, and when I come back, it's going to just give me the tasks which are not yet complete. From all the different projects, that's now more like a screen full. And it's allowed me to really focus in very quickly. There could have been tens of thousands of tasks returned, and I'd have to scroll through them all to find the overdue ones. This is allowing me to focus in on that using a set of filters and design choices about what I see, how things are coloured, which data columns I'm going to see. All those sort of things are saved into that view definition. Again, we provide a load of helpful ones that we know people are using all the time, and you can personalise your own if you want to as well. And that same approach is identical for all of these controls. If I wanted to come to risks and go to portfolio risks, these are all the risks in the portfolio. I can see we've got 43, and then I could load a view into that, which might be the top 10 risks by value. So I'll come back, and now we're seeing the top 10 risks in this portfolio ordered by value. So it's really quick to jump to those sorts of bits of analysis. Often the things that you really struggle with when you've got loads of different projects and all the data is in each project in spreadsheets. Somebody asks you a simple question like, what are the top 10 risks? And you've got to go away and do a load of work to come up with that. Hopefully correct. And if somebody asks you the next day, you've got to go back and do it all again. This is about jumping to those things really quickly. This is a browser. You could be doing this on your phone if you want to. Now, these sort of views that we talked about can be really quite complicated, all the sort of filters and options around them, which is why we have a pick list option first of all. Let's go with the simple thing. Most people are going to use standardized things rather than customized things. So that's pretty straightforward to do. You might not just want to live review those, you might want to go on and produce an actual report bringing together a load of that content. Now, some functionality is available to all users and some functionality is restricted. We've indicated on the diagram here that this is users of a certain permission level only. There are, as I mentioned, over 60 different report templates in the system. And of course, you can add as many as you want to that as well. So we don't necessarily want users to have to go and fiddle through and find the report they're supposed to do. We're encouraging our users here to do two different types of report. An instant project statement, and that's a typically one-page report on the project. It's a simple statement. So this is it. It automatically produces into HTML, so I can see it in my browser, because I might want to just review the information straight away, like say on my phone or whatever device I'm on. And it's bringing together a whole load of different things. Properties on the project, a sort of simplified view of the plan, a list of overdue tasks, top 5 risks and issues, summary of the benefits, some key statistics and dates, cost information, processes. a timeline showing me the statuses on the project and how they've changed over the previous months. So that's brought together really nicely for me to see. In practice, a much nicer format of it is in Word, so it can give us a Word version of that as well. So I'm actually on my laptop, of course, so I can open that up and see the Word version, which is much more the sort of thing that we would want to PDF or print or show to, the boss or a customer. Exactly the same content, just laid out much more nicely. You can choose the logo and the fonts and the layout and color schemes that suit you. So Word versions are obviously much nicer, but for an immediacy, say so that you can view on your phone or whatever device, you've got showing in the browser. Now, once I'm here, I could choose from my library of different report types for different portfolios or projects or users, or we'll come back and just do our weekly project review. And this is a much more detailed report. So the first one is aimed at a one page. We have a sort of status report, which is typically 3 pages on a project. This one here is typically 10 or 11 pages. And this is using a 1 week backwards, 1 week forwards format, very much like a typical highlight report might be. So it's showing me the data and the data as it was a week ago. So I can see how these things have changed, the various things, percentage completes, progresses, etc. So some of them have gone up and some of them have gone down and some of them are the same. We've got that same status trend again, but this time it's looking weekly for us, back a couple of months or 8 weeks or something. And then we start to run into some more detailed things. So around planning, like I say, we've got 1 week forward, 1 week back. So we've got, again, a customized view of the plan, which is just showing me the things that are happening currently over the last week and in the future week. And I've got things that should have been completed last week. Have they been? Things that are overdue, things that should be completed next week, things starting next week. The typical things that you would want to think about with a project review. Resources, like I say, last week and next week, who's actually working on things, milestones that are coming up, again, detailed analysis of the issues and changes that we've got, issues that are under action or not yet under action, risks, finances information, benefits, a whole load of detail produced really very quickly for you, because it's going to the same project, to its data set, chucking all that stuff back for me, just in a different format with a different set of views and filters. Just imagine the effort to produce the first report if you're doing it by hand, and then to produce the second one for a different audience, and the quality errors that come into that, because people make mistakes when they try and do things by hand. So we've got a consistent design and layout, and if I switch to a different project and run the same report, I'm going to get obviously different content, but it's going to look exactly the same. So if I just jump back to my project pick list here, and we'll choose a different sort of project, this one, website redevelopment. It's using the same method actually, so it looks fundamentally fairly similar, but I can see I'm only doing a couple of things on this particular project. And that was nice and easy because I've done these before, and you've seen these diagrams already. You just know, I'll see my tasks, I just come over here and click on the thing. If I wanted to do, like I say, a report for this one, it's going to look the same as the last one, but it's going to have different content in it. And that's becomes really easy for people then to digest that information. You always go to that same place in the report, that same place in the navigation to access that content. And of course you can have all sorts of different methods here, as I mentioned. So we can have things which are, so we've got a Scrum project here, different sort of process, different navigation of the processes and the documentation that are included in it, some different sorts of reports as well, but also a lot of things that are standardized. So we're still keeping that standard so we can get to things nice and easily. It's familiar for users. If you're only ever doing Scrum projects, it's always going to look like this, of course. If you're doing a range of different sorts of projects, some things will be similar and some things will be slightly different. So that's a really easy way for navigating, and of course because it's just a diagram, you can change it. It doesn't have to have our logo here. It can have your logo, your color schemes, your processes, your language, links to your guidance materials, the reports that you want, the analysis that you want, the data that you want. And that's not a difficult thing to do. You don't need any programming skills to do that. We cover it in the training courses, or in fact you can follow the videos and do it yourself. It's a pretty straightforward thing to do. Now for all of these projects, we also have a sort of deeper view, because that's fine for the team members. That's the sort of level of interaction they have. But as an admin user, as the manager of the project or PMO person, I want to come into a deeper view of the project. So I've got a secondary level of navigation on here, and this is going to focus me on some particular things. Frequent checks. We want to encourage project managers to be looking at these things regularly. So I can see this project has got 3 overdue tasks. That's sort of highlight to me, so I can go straight in there and see what these overdue tasks are. Straightforward. In this case we're showing overdue tasks plus sort of highlighted, plus other things as well. And I can also do trends. So we talked about trends earlier. When we get the data in and store it at the project level, we then every time that changes, we store the date stamp and the value going backwards. So I can see, not a particularly good example, that finances one. Let's just jump back to the other project and go into its deeper look and its finances, so we can see how they've changed over time. The budget cost, progress cost, and actual cost, or the timescale. So this project looks like it's been re-baselined a couple of times. The baseline finish and the actual finish seem to be suspiciously tracking each other. It's a demonstration though, but it's this sort of thing. You can track any data you want, so not just numbers, but dates and status text type content as well. So we're showing how the dates have changed here over the timescale, of course. So those sorts of things are really useful for understanding how your projects are progressing. So we've seen working on documentation, we've seen data being collected and analysed and reported out. We can do that not only at the project level, but also at the portfolio level. So again, I'm going to run a portfolio report, and this is going to go away and say, well, we've got something like 10 projects in this portfolio. Let's mash the data together from all of them and get a combined picture of that. It's going to do many of the same sorts of types of analysis that we saw on a project report, but these are the things that normally, take people ages to produce because there's lots of effort. And actually, if the data isn't standardized and the calculations done in a consistent way across all of the projects, it can often be really difficult, in fact, if not impossible, to roll up that data at the portfolio level. Okay, so here's the report. It's showing me those projects. We've got 9 projects here. And these are properties from the property database for each project. And you can collect all sorts of different things for your projects, and then you can choose which of them you want to see in the particular display table. So this is a sort of typical overview set, the statuses, and some key dates and statistics about the projects. And then we're charting some of that, the risk levels here. We're doing a timeline for the program. And again, this is using the same functionality we've been looking at a couple of times now, but it's a different view. It's a different set of filters applied. So here we're just showing a 1-line summary per project with percentage complete showing through it, some key dates and costs for it. Got some resource charts. This portfolio actually goes back 10 years. So there's quite a lot of detail in there, too much to produce the table underneath. Normally we're looking at a year's time span, which obviously is much more easy. Here we're looking at overdue milestones. We've got change budget information here, looking at the time cost quality impacts of changes that have happened on the project. Really good if you're carrying change budgets. for your projects. You'll be able to see how you're performing against those. We've got project finances rolled up, benefit situations rolled up as well, so we can see what the overall budget benefit is for this portfolio and what we've actually delivered out of it so far. We've got summary of risks and issues, and we've got some trending information down the bottom. Fairly comprehensive overview of that portfolio for a sort of what we might call a multi-topic type of report. We might want to have a deep dive into something like benefits, in which case we choose different report, run that again, and we'd get that, or we could shift to a different portfolio and get a different idea. So if I wanted to come to, for example, all the projects in procurement services, I can come to those, I'd select one of those, and then I can, old project in this case, and then I'd be able to run the report on that and get that data set rolled up for me. So your projects here can exist in multiple portfolios if you want them to be. These are just groupings that we use for analysis and reporting, really. So the same project can appear in a particular department, a particular program. It can also appear in the list of approved ideas, and it could appear, unfortunately, sometimes in the analysis of large risks and issues. These are projects that have got substantial levels of risks and issues, or perhaps overdue tasks. And this portfolio is actually built based on rules. So you can assign rules which determine which projects appear in which portfolios. Sometimes that's a simple sort of thing. You've tagged your projects with the project manager's name or the department of the project, and you just want a collection of all the projects for that department. So that's a simple rule. But these sort of rules look at the data in the projects and say, well, I'm only going to put the project into this portfolio if it has a certain level of risk, issue, cost overrun, benefit challenges, overdue tasks, etc. So you've got somewhere you can go quickly to just see all the problem projects. You're not having to look through lists of 200 projects to find the ones that are going to be needing your focus. That's been drawn directly out for you. So that's a quick look through Project in a Box. From the browser perspective, like I say, we have a Windows application interface as well, and also tools for helping you design your new methodologies, etc. But this is a sort of quick introduction to what Project in a Box is all about. I hope you found that helpful, and if you've got any further questions, just get in touch and we'll be delighted to go through those with you one-to-one. Thank you very much.